event.
Right. That's why you don't get too excited about a winning streak in November for a winter sport.
Stand by.
And good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Huddle, KGUN9 streaming sports talk show. We come to you every Tuesday at this time. I'm Jason Barr, joined by Pat Parris. Pat, good afternoon. How are you today?
Great. Big win for Arizona basketball last night. They look pretty impressive doing so, and it's Territorial Cup week. I mean, you can't get more excited than that, right?
Right, and I think we should start there. We'll have plenty of time to lead basketball for the next several months, but this is the U of A's biggest game of the season, going to the Territorial Cup. And Pat, I did say, hey, 5 wins they were going to get this year. I think that's looking good now. I did say lose to Washington State, beat ASU. I still think that's looking good. I think keep in mind this team had 1 win last year. They've got a lot to play for now. They haven't beaten ASU since 2016. ASU comes into this game reeling with a 3-8 record. They've got an interim coach. And Pat, you see these games go one of 2 ways. Sometimes they rally around the interim coach and the final game for the seniors, and they come out and play well, like what happened for U of A with Tim Kish back in 2011. And sometimes the team just kind of rolls over a little bit, like what happened with U of A and Kevin Sumlin a couple of years ago. So it really could go either way, but I do like U of A to win this game.
I hope you're right about U of A winning. I feel good about this game, but then again, I felt like they built a little momentum after UCLA, and they certainly let a lot of people down, including themselves, the way they played against Washington State. I know you thought they would lose to Washington State, or that was how you picked it before the season began. I actually thought they were going to beat Washington State, and it just did not go their way. That first half was ugly. It was an uphill battle the whole way, and unfortunately, the Jaden Delora turnovers were just too much to overcome. Having said that, you do go into a game against Arizona State where, you mentioned it, Jason, you've got an interim coach. They haven't won. They've only won 3 games. The Sun Devils have. I know the Bourget situation with him being the quarterback, the Marana kid, and that's a great story. But, he became the starting quarterback because of all the injuries. And they had a little bit of
players leaving too.
Well, I was just going to say, they had a lack of talent going into the season because they had a lot of defections coming into this season, and then they had some injuries, and now all of a sudden you're playing guys that you probably didn't expect to be playing. I think that this is this is the perfect scenario for the U of A to get the win.
Good setup for them, yes.
Yeah, in the Territorial Cup Series. I don't know if it'll happen though, Jason. I don't have full faith in what's going on with the U of A right now, and I hope they give us a lot of excitement. I hope they come out with the win on Friday, and I do expect them to win, but we have to see.
Yeah, obviously you want to go into the offseason with a much better taste, and they'll do that if they win that game. And based on where they were last year, a much improved offense. Now they got to rework the defense. So the situation with Washington State is the Cougars defense was too much. There was miscommunication, which should not be at this point of the season, between Jaden Delora and the receivers. There's no excuse for that. He got into a little bit of a tiff with Dorian Singer on the sideline. It didn't last long, and he threw Singer a touchdown later in the game. So that's not a lingering issue. But there should not be miscommunication like this at a home game deep into the season with part of the reason that he threw 4 interceptions. So that's not good. You want to be going, the right way. So definitely an issue with that, but you're taking on a much different team here. This ASU team is coming off a 31-7 loss, and they're coming in reeling, like you said, with a lightly recruited quarterback who's fine, but they're not coming in like a well-oiled machine like some of these other teams they played this year.
Yeah, and it's a tough situation. Sean Aguano is in that really difficult situation. Hindsight's 2020, but I'll tell you that before the season started, and we all knew that Herm Edwards was in trouble at ASU. Herm Edwards was basically, had to get rid of some of his assistant coaches that got caught up in this, illegal, it was a dead period. They weren't supposed to have anybody on campus, and they ended
recruiting violation.
They apparently had recruits on campus. You knew that Herm Edwards was probably not going to make it to so why even go into the season? Anyway, that's another story for another day. But Sean Aguano takes over. It's a tough situation. I did appreciate what he did yesterday that you showed, Jason, and that's kind of give his players that feel for the Territorial Cup game. And as well as I do that Jedd Fisch has done the same thing. Coaches in college football have to respect and appreciate and then impart that upon their players, the importance of these rivalry games. And we all know the history of that cup right there, Jason, the oldest cup in all of college football that is played for annually. And it means so much to the state of Arizona in a little bit of bragging rights. And there hasn't been any bragging rights down here, Jason. We all know we have bragging rights when it comes to the basketball court. But, in the grand scheme of things, you need to win that. You need to win your fair share of those Territorial Cup games to have some bragging rights on the football field.
ASU's won 8 of the last 10 Territorial Cups, and the sting of the 77 is still not 72-7, not 1977. 72-7 has still not dissipated, and there's still a lot of guys who played in that game 2 years ago this week, and they can downplay it, and the Fish can say, we're not talking about 7-7. We're not concerned with last year's score either. We're only concerned with this year. But, that's got to be still a little bit of a motivating factor. The way ASU came in here a couple of years ago and just ran right over Arizona from the opening kickoff, which I believe they returned for a touchdown and all the way through the game. And one of the worst performances we've seen by Arizona football, which was Kevin Sumlin's last game at Arizona. So, it doesn't take it away from me that Arizona's 4-7 and ASU is 3-8. This game still has a ton of meaning for Arizona. It's another little hurdle that they got to get past, and I think you'll see them play better because I think what you saw against UCLA was them respond to the way they played the week before. I think you're going to see that this week. And I also, of course, the competition's not as much. I can't blame the loss on Jordan Morgan. One offensive lineman wasn't the issue in the game. They would have lost to Washington State if they had a healthy Jordan Morgan. Talking about the starting left tackles from Marana. Yeah.
Real quick, Mercedes has a comment along those lines, Jason. It's who knows since they both have bad records. Yeah, they have bad records, but it's that old adage: throw out the records when the two rivals face each other. That kind of thing.
Well, you had to, Pat, because it's been very rare when these two teams were both ranked going into this game. It's almost never happened, and that was what made 2014 so special. When they won the game, that got the outside help. When the Pac-12 South, ASU had come into that game with a winning record too. It's very rare that both teams have come into this game with either ranked or both with winning records.
That's right. Now, occasionally you get, a team knocking off a team that was, trying to become bowl eligible or trying to go to the Rose Bowl. We've seen Arizona do that decades ago, have that opportunity, and they were able to pull it off. But there's not quite that on the line. But real quick, I was gonna say, the one thing, Jason, the players may not be dwelling on 70-7. You said some of them were here, but most of them were not. But the alumni does, and the alumni may not want to bring that game up or that number up, but it still sits there. And the alumni are important in the sense that there wouldn't be an athletic department if you don't have really engaged alumni that want to foot the bill for season tickets and foot the bill for maybe giving a little extra money to the athletic department or paying for their right to sit in great seats, either at football games or especially in basketball, where if you're down in the lower bowl, you're paying big money to sit in those seats. So, there's a lot at stake here. It's not just bragging rights. It's making sure that alumni is engaged and feeling good about their investment. They're investing time and money into helping this program football wise turn the corner and start climbing again. And this is the time to kind of have it all come together and work.
Wally Wildcat, do you think people will show up? Was surprised to see Arizona Stadium pretty empty against WSU. Yeah, there was only 40,000 fans there this past Saturday.
Jason,
that was disappointing.
I was shocked today when I'm trying to find it real
Game's
quick
not sold out, Pat.
On Instagram. I don't know if you can see this. It says buy one, get one free for the Territorial Cup game, Jason.
Wow.
That means not only are Arizona fans not buying tickets, Arizona State fans aren't coming down for sure.
Well, I don't blame them. Their team's 3-8. This game, that's a lot to ask, you know.
Yeah, but in order to have a sellout in a game like this, yeah, you got to have you'd like a better record.
Get one free means they don't think they're going to sell out.
No, I agree. Now that's probably some of the less expensive. So it's not the really good seats, but that's probably those seats that are on the on the east side, up high. They're trying to get those filled up a little bit, but I don't remember that before. I was shocked when I saw John Parra, our chief photographer, and I were driving out to a story, and I said, "Do you believe this?" I was shocked, and he's been around covering Arizona football as a photographer since the late 80s, so he's never seen that before either.
Yeah. Jason Barr, Pat Parris, we're talking sports here on the Huddle, University of Arizona Sports. The football game, the Territorial Cup game, the Duel in the Desert is Friday. That is 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock on Friday. It's a Friday game, and certainly the other big story we're talking about here, U of A basketball, 4-0, 3 games now they've scored more than 100 points, including last night against Cincinnati, where they put up 101. Tubelis, who you see right there, had led the way with 30 points and 11 rebounds. Took a little spill late, but I think he's okay. Umar Bala with a good game and really was kind of dominating in the paint there for a little bit. Almost lived up to that Baby Shaq nickname for a few minutes there. And Kirk Creason and Tommy Lloyd doing their thing. So they play San Diego State tonight in the Maui Invitational. Last time they played San Diego State in Hawaii was the St. Nick game. Nick Johnson on Christmas Eve blocked the potential winning shot for San Diego State, and it kept Arizona unbeaten in the 2012-2013 season at that point. So it should be a good game. San Diego State, I believe, is ranked. They beat Ohio State last night. I'm not too familiar with their team yet this year, but we're talking about 2 ranked teams and a little bit of a quasi rivalry game in Maui tonight. Should be a lot of fun. Winner advancing to the championship game.
And of course, the little sidebar story is that San Diego State could someday be a member of the Pac-12. So this might be something we see quite often. I didn't realize San Diego State was ranked 17th in the country until the tournament tipped off yesterday. I was watching them play just a little bit. I didn't get to see much of that game, but I saw they were playing. I saw they were ranked 17th. Arizona last night, Jason, I thought it was a great sign to see that every time things kind of got a little lax on the defensive end and Cincinnati made a little bit of a run, Arizona was able to then maybe stiffen up a little bit defensively, make a little run of their own. They kept going from, like 8 points up to 16 points up, somewhere in that range. And it was seesawing back and forth until, that started the second half. Have you ever seen a team make their first 11 shots? I mean, yes, you see it every once in a while, but it's rare. Arizona made their first 11 shots and really kind of took charge of that second half. Cincinnati made a couple of runs, cut it to single digits, and substitutions at the end took a 16-point lead down to, what did they win by 8 last night?
Yeah.
The point is, Arizona seemed like they were pretty well in control and they were having a lot of fun. They're going to have to clean some things up on the defensive end, but I like the fact that they weren't turning the ball over every other possession like they did in some of those early games where they were really running free and not protecting the basketball as well as they need to.
Yeah, what you worry about is those shots aren't always going to fall. I mean, there's going to be games on the road.
Yeah.
You're not having your best night. Crease is going to go 3 for 11, and Tubelis or whoever is not going to have a great shooting night. And the only way to win that game is defensively. And so, yes, they've got to get better defensively for sure. But we saw Courtney Ramey in there for the first time. I think he had maybe 14 of his 17 points in the second half, something like that. He looked good. He looked like he fit right in there. It deepens the team. Cedric Henderson Jr. was really good last night coming off the bench. The only guy who really didn't have a great game was Pell Larson, who got into some foul trouble. Yeah. And,
though, what you and I both agreed at the start of the season as they were just getting ready to tip off this new season, we both said, guys have to make steps forward. They may have to make progress. Sometimes they have to make big jumps. Like we saw last year, we were able to see guys make big jumps and suddenly Christian Coloco becomes, an NBA, a high pick. that's what we wanted to see from Azuolas Tubelis. And so far early on, I know it's 4 games in, but he's gone from being a really great player, right, to even that guy that now you can count on for 30, 32 when you really need to. And he is, he's always been a really good shooter, and he's, he plays the position of a big man, but he plays it with a lot more skill than other guys in the college game, his size. And I think it's starting to show that his development is coming around, and his progression is pretty impressive, Jason.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to need big minutes from him and Umar Ballo in the front court, because it looks like Tommy Lloyd's got his rotation a little set here. And you've got Henry Vasar, who's kind of the big coming off the bench. He looked like a freshman last night,
Yep.
at times. He needs to get a little bigger and stronger and a little bit more into the flow of the game. There's a little bit more depth in the backcourt with Cedric Henderson Jr. and Adama Ball and Kylan Boswell, who seems to be ahead of Ball on the depth chart. A little bit there. And so he's going with 9 guys right now. Generally, you see these coaches play 8. So we'll see if the 9 continues and how that plays out. But they're going to need big minutes out of Tubelis and Umar Ballo, and for them to stay out of foul trouble, which they did last night, and a good job of Ballo by that. So yeah, 4-0, and they're passing the eye test. Obviously these opponents haven't been fantastic. Cincinnati certainly a step up from what they've played before, but it is a Cincinnati team that had a road loss to, I think it was Western Kentucky, possibly a couple weeks ago.
That's right.
Western Kentucky is a good team. I think they're picked to win the Horizon League. So, Cincinnati, not a bad team at all, but maybe not the quality we're going to see tonight. So, that's what these tournaments are for, to learn about your team and then to see, how battle tested you are and what you need to work on as you go into Pac-12 play. So, I'm encouraged by what I'm seeing so far, for sure.
Oh, I am too. And I think, going back to Cincinnati real quick, U of A caught them on a night where they were shooting the ball well, especially in the second half from 3. I think they ended up hitting half of their 3-pointers. They were phenomenal from the outside. And I think Tommy Lloyd said that'll be something that they'll have to, address. A good teaching moment is that. So you caught a Cincinnati team that was coming off a loss, and they were on fire, and you still managed to win that game fairly comfortably. It wasn't ever really in doubt. And so, yeah, you build off the positives. Quick turnaround, Jason. You play San Diego State. You play them tonight, and then you got to turn around and play again tomorrow night, right? So, you're going to play Creighton or Arkansas. Guess what? Those 2 teams are top 10 teams. So, if things play out as you hope they'll play out, you're going to be playing a top 10 team tomorrow night for the championship. That's not a bad little tournament you've entered in.
No, and they'll need that for their RPI, for sure. And you generally, the way you play early in these tournaments is generally how you play throughout. You don't really play really poorly in the first game and then just play great the next 2 games, and kind of vice versa. So I'd be surprised if they came out tonight and didn't look good. Against San Diego State. Generally, how you play early in those is how you play throughout.
That's a good point.
The tournament. So
remember the DeAndre Ayton season at the U of A when they went to the Bahamas and
went 0-3.
Oh, that was just awful, right?
That's
they were
right.
weren't they ranked 1 or 2 in the one? They were ranked 1 in the country, and they dropped out of the poll.
And that was the first time that it ever happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it portend it was a sign of things to come.
Sign of things to come.
And I'm sure Buffalo looked at that video, and Buffalo shot right over Dusan Ristic and DeAndre Ayton in that 2018, I think it was. Yeah,
I think that's
first round game. That was not good.
No,
that was not a good situation. So yeah. So encouraged by UVA basketball. Jason Barr, Pat Parris here. We're talking sports on the Huddle. And what else we got going on? We got the professional professional bull riders.
Yeah, you tell me about that, because I've covered them in the past, but it's exciting. They're coming here this weekend, right?
Yeah, I was supposed to do an interview earlier. The interview kind of got put off. So, but basically, it's the battle of the. Oh, I'm going to say it wrong now. I'm saying it wrong, but Battle of the Beast or something. It's the first event in that series. And hey, listen, these are the best at what they do.
That's right.
And it's a big part of Tucson. Pat, when I first moved here 10 and a half years ago, I thought I'd be covering a lot more rodeo, and we really only do it probably
during the rodeo. Yeah.
Yeah. We really only do it for 1 week out of the year, a couple stories. I thought it would be more of a consistent thing. So, it's good to not just always do the stick and ball sports. And you just kind of need to be exposed to it a little bit, I think, to really appreciate any sport that you haven't been exposed to before in your past. So,
yeah. Well,
so that's a big event. Yeah.
Talk about being part of the fabric of the state of Arizona, bull riding, being a cowboy, being a rancher. That's the fabric of Arizona. And that's that sport is, man, it's a tough sport, really tough sport. And talk about injuries and then having to, we always talk about playing through injury. Those guys are always playing hurt. Those rodeo cowboys, whether they're, on steers or on horseback or whatever they're doing, they're always dealing with injuries.
I don't think they'd relate to some of the baseball players taking a few days off here and there.
Yeah, got a little tight. I'm going to sit it out. Yeah.
Yeah. Window Rock, I believe one of the top bull riders is from Window Rock, Arizona. I know
cool.
That's not near here.
No.
But it's within the state. So,
yes.
I know that's kind of going on. So it's Thanksgiving. Are you going to the Territorial Cup game Friday? You can watch it on TV.
Oh, yeah.
Be there. Okay.
Yeah, no, I'll be there. Be there in my seats and hoping that they win. I get back to that real quick, Jay. This is the year to win, right? I mean, this is all set up. So you hope that everything falls into place. I was talking to Kyler Diggs, our weather guy, and he was at the game on Saturday, and we were talking about, sometimes you can just tell. Sometimes you're like, oh, the coaches didn't have them ready, or the coaches that was a terrible game plan, or that was a bad play call, whatever. But it seemed like they set them up to succeed, and then they just didn't execute. So it really comes down to execution. Are you going to, they'll have a good game plan. They know offensively for the Wildcats, they've got the horses, they've got the talent to score a lot of points against ASU. On the defensive side of things for Arizona State, they got a running game, and that's about it. So, and unfortunately for the U of A, defensively, they're not as good against the run. So that'll be a key area to watch. But the point I'm making is it's all there in front of you for the U of A. You've got one game left. It can really determine how you and the fan base feels about where you are after year 2 of Jed Fish. So lay it out there on the line and come back with the W. That's really the way it has to conclude this.
That's a good note to end on, Pat. I think you're going to see that on Friday. Remember earlier in the year when they had 2 home games back to back and they lost to Mississippi State and came back the next week and played much better and beat North Dakota State, a game that a lot of people thought they were going to lose. I think that same thing's going to happen here with I think you're going to see Jacob Cowing play like he did earlier in the year. I think he's going to have a big game. And I'd like to see them target T-Mac a little bit more, and I wouldn't make anything of that what happened between Delora and Singer last week. So I think they're going to see. I think you're going to see better performance from Arizona. So my prediction is U of A wins. What is it? Is it a 4-point spread?
4 points the last I saw. Arizona
yeah, that's tough. I think I'd still just give the points if I like Arizona to win. And I really can't say, well, I'm taking ASU plus the points because I'm saying they're going to win on a last-second field goal. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think it's going to be more like a 30-20 type of situation.
Yeah,
so I'm going Arizona minus the 4.
Yeah, I think I'd say Arizona's going to win, and if they're going to win, they're going to have to do it by more than 4. It's going to be one of those things that they could win by 6 or 10 points, somewhere in that range.
No Wally Wildcat. Coach does not need this win for the job security. He's talking about Jed Fish. He is fine. He's going to get very high marks when he goes in for his annual review with the recruits that they've been getting and the positivity that he's bringing. This is a multi-year turnaround. He would only be in trouble if they start going backwards in years 4, 5, and 6. And that's a long ways away. And the only thing I've seen that they've gone backwards in is the defense. And I think a big part of that was losing an exceptional defensive coordinator last year who they were lucky to have in the first place in Don Brown.
Yeah.
And
glad to hear it. Yeah.
And so no, that's not a situation at all going into the year. And also keep in mind, when you ask a question like that, a lot of it has to do with, well, who hired him? The current university president and athletic director is the one who hired Jed Fish, right? So, they're admitting they'd make a mistake. That has to be it has to be really grave for them to do that, which they did with Kevin Sumlin, but that has to be really grave. That's often a new administration coming in and wanting
That's
their
right.
guy. But
Yeah.
this is their guy who has took over a winless team in a situation that was broke and has them possibly winning 5 games a year, which I don't think many people thought. I did, but many people thought going into this year. So
I had them picked to win 4, so they've already equaled what I thought they were going to do. So this is gravy, yeah, and you'd be right at 5. Yep.
All right, we're going to leave it on that note, and enjoy the game. Enjoy your Thanksgiving, everybody, and we were just treated to some goodies here upstairs at the K-Gun 9 for the.
It's a season of overindulgence, and it began today at K-Gun 9. That's for sure.
Yeah, I got to show some restraint.
Yes.
All right, everybody. Enjoy your Thanksgiving. Hope it's a safe and a healthy one and a happy one for everybody. We will be back here next Tuesday at this time. For Pat Parris, I'm Jason Barr. This has been the Huddle on K-Gun 9's streaming platforms. We'll see you next week. Take care, everybody.